All right, let's talk about one of history's most fascinating figures, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Now, most people know him as a warrior king, right? But today, we're going to peel back that layer. We're going to look at the visionary strategist, the brilliant administrator who literally built an empire from scratch.
You know, to really get a sense of how he was seen, you just have to look at what his biggest rival, the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, called him, a mountain rat. Just think about that for a second. It's so dismissive, right? A pest, a nobody hiding in the hills. But honestly, that insult is the perfect place to start our story.
Because that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How does a mountain rat go on to build an empire? An empire that would stare down the most powerful dynasty in India? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack right now. Okay, so to get this, you have to picture the world he was born into. We're talking about the 17th century Deccan Plateau. It was, well, a complete mess. You had these powerful sultanates, the Mughal Empire, all constantly at war, all fighting for a bigger piece of the pie. It was total chaos. But you know what chaos creates? Opportunity. And that's where our story begins. And Shivaji didn't waste any time. I mean, at just 16 years old, he captures his first fort. 16! This wasn't just some teenager's rebellion, though. It was the first real move in a much bigger game. A game he called Swaraja, a radical idea of self-rule, a kingdom for his own people, free from outside control. So the ambition was there, for sure. But ambition doesn't win wars, especially when you're up against enemies with massive armies and endless resources. So what did he do? He didn't try to beat them at their own game. No, he threw out their rulebook and wrote his own. And at the heart of his strategy was this incredible concept called Ganimi Kawa. Now, this wasn't about big, epic battles on open fields. Forget that. This was all about speed, surprise, and knowing the land better than anyone else. He essentially turned the rugged hills and dense forests of the Western Ghats into his most powerful weapon. And this is how it worked. It was brilliant, really. He knew that a giant army is like a giant animal. It needs a lot of food. Its supply line is its weakness. So step 1, lure them into the hills where their size is a disadvantage. Step 2, hit them with lightning-fast raids on their camps, their supplies. Step 3, target those supply lines. And step 4, the most important part, just disappear. Vanish back into the terrain before they even knew what hit them. And this really shows you the David and Goliath situation here. On one side, you've got the Mughal army, this huge, slow-moving beast with heavy cavalry and massive cannons. On the other, you have Shivaji's army, small, light, and incredibly fast. They weren't trying to land a knockout punch. They were trying to exhaust the giant, to wear it down piece by piece. This whole guerrilla strategy was held together by an incredible network of forts, over 300 of them. And these weren't just stone walls. They were masterpieces built right into the landscape with amazing things like rainwater harvesting systems so they could survive long sieges. And he was thinking ahead, too. He realized a coastline is a weakness if you don't control the sea, so he built one of the first proper navies in India to protect it. Okay, so winning battles is one thing, being a brilliant general is one thing, but building a lasting kingdom, that's a whole different skill set. And this is where Shivaji's genius goes to another level. He wasn't just a warrior, he was an architect of a new kind of state, one that was built for the people. So he set up something called the Ashta Pradhan Mandal, basically a council of 8 ministers. Think of it like a modern-day cabinet. Each person had a job: prime minister, finance minister, commander-in-chief. This was revolutionary because it meant power wasn't all in one person's hands. It created a system of checks and balances, making the government way more efficient and accountable. But this right here, this is where he really changed things for the average person. See, before him, you had this totally corrupt system where powerful landlords were middlemen. They'd collect taxes from farmers and take a huge cut, exploiting them. Shivaji just got rid of them. Poof, gone. His government now dealt directly with the farmers. It was a complete game changer. And just look at the numbers. He set the tax at a flat 30% of what a farmer produced.
Now, that might still sound like a lot, but under the Mughals, it could be up to 50%, half of everything you grew. Plus, if there was a drought or a flood, Shivaji would often just waive the taxes altogether. This was more than just good economics. It was about compassionate rule. And that same philosophy, that same ethical code, applied to his army. This is pretty incredible for the time. His soldiers had strict orders. You do not harm civilians. You do not disrespect women. You do not damage any place of worship, no matter the religion. His wars were about strategy and territory, not about looting and destruction. So, let's recap. He's got a killer army, a state that actually works for its people, but there was still one huge problem. In the eyes of the established powers, he lacked one critical thing: legitimacy. And solving this problem would become the defining moment of his entire life. Yeah, think about it. For all his success, the big empires and even some of his own rivals still saw him as just an upstart, a rebel without any royal blood. He wasn't a real king in their eyes. And for his kingdom, his Swaraja, to survive after he was gone, he absolutely had to fix that. And the road to get there was rocky, to say the least. At one point, he was forced to sign a humiliating treaty, giving up a ton of his forts. Then the Mughals captured him. But then came the legendary escape from their prison in Agra, an act of pure defiance that made him a hero across the land. He rode that wave of momentum, started taking back his forts, and set the stage for his single greatest move. In 1674, at Rayagad Fort, he held a massive coronation, and he took on a new title, Chhatrapati. Now, this wasn't just him giving himself a fancy name, it was a powerful statement. It means protector of the people. And by taking it, he was telling the world, I am a sovereign king. I am not a vassal. I am an equal. Honestly, this whole coronation was a masterstroke of political branding. By using ancient rituals and a powerful new title, he created a legal and even a divine right for his rule. It completely solved that legitimacy problem. It shut up his rivals, and it gave his people a powerful new Maratha identity to rally behind. You know, Shivaji didn't live a very long life. He died when he was just 50. But what he built in that time, well, his legacy was about so much more than just the battles he won. So when you put it all together, you see the full picture. He was the military innovator who turned guerrilla warfare into an art form. He was the skilled administrator who built a government that served its people. He was the cultural icon who forged a new identity. And at the center of it all, he was a visionary leader who had a dream of self-rule and then went out and made it happen. And what about Aurangzeb, the emperor who called him a mountain rat? Well, years later, near the end of his life, he wrote about how letting Shivaji escape that one time had tangled him up in endless, draining wars. It's the ultimate mic drop, isn't it? The emperor himself admitting that the so-called mountain rat had run circles around him. So, that leaves us with one final thought. Everything Shivaji did was about challenging the way things were done and putting his people first. So I'll leave you with this question. When you look at his principles, his ethical military code, his fair tax system, his brilliant strategic thinking, which of those do you think